I don't follow Dave Ramsey anymore. Yeah, I know. That's like, what? Tiana Clewis, a self-proclaimed Dave Ramsey disciple, no longer follows the 7 baby steps. I don't even, frankly, recommend any of their products anymore, with the exception of the Every Dollar budgeting app, only because that is the easiest app I've ever seen for anyone to get started and to actually create their budgets on. In all honesty, I have debated for months, probably even close to a year, on whether or not to even make this video, whether or not to even talk about this, because there's some really important things that can easily be overshadowed in a video like this. Like the fact that the 7 baby steps, if you follow them to a T, they actually do work. They will get the job done of getting you out of debt, getting you a really sexy emergency fund, and getting you to a position where you can definitely become a millionaire in your lifetime. So they work. And also it gave me my start as a money coach. So it actually is a big part of the reason why I'm here right now on this YouTube channel, in the podcast, or if you're one of my clients, even coaching you. So me making this video was actually a pretty difficult decision to make. However, the more that I have dove into the world of personal finance, the more that I have actually coached human beings as a money coach, and the more that I've paid attention to certain things as an executive pastor, I realized that there are some honestly kind of toxic things that can be birthed out of Dave Ramsey Solutions, and kind of the way that he does things. And I don't want to create some sort of video where I'm like bashing him or canceling him or anything like that. I really just want to share some of the problematic things that I've seen and I've observed that is kind of messing some people up. It's impacting the financial coaching industry, and really it's even impacting the way that people look at Christians. And so with that in mind, I felt like it was my obligation to make a video like this, just to kind of highlight, showcase those things, so that even if you are following him, if you are following the 7 baby steps, you can recognize these problematic things that are occurring and basically throw out the bad in the midst of listening to good. So I'm not trying to cancel anyone, and frankly, I don't have a big enough platform to try to do that anyway. But I'm not trying to cancel anyone. I'm not trying to bash anyone. I'm really just trying to make you aware. So again, keep the good, throw out the bad. So in this video, we're going to take a little time to talk about the reasons why I no longer follow Dave Ramsey or his 7 baby steps. Hey dreamers, and welcome back to my channel, where we break down all things money so it can stop being an obstacle and start being what it was designed to be, a tool to help you create the life that God has designed just for you. Now, before we get into the meat of the video, I do want to introduce myself. Like I said earlier, my name's Tiana Clewis, and I am an executive pastor, a money coach, an author, a speaker, mom, wife, a bunch of other things. And my mission is to help Christian women who are trapped in the 9-to-5 grind bust through the financial barriers that have her saying no, not yet, to what it is that God's calling them to do. Look, I know what it's like when you are trying to step into purpose, step into your God-given calling, but the way that your bank account is set up, it says, nah, sis, we ain't gonna be able to do it. Look, you gotta make some practical moves and you gotta make some faith moves, and this channel is designed to help you do just that. If that sounds like something you need in your life, let me know by liking the video and following my channel by clicking the big red button below. Don't forget to hit the bell so that you're notified every time I drop brand new money tips and biblical strategies designed to help you transform money from your biggest stumbling block into your greatest ally. And one more quick thing before we get started. I know that some of you are probably going to be on this video simply because you remember that I am giving away a brand new budget planner that I reviewed on Clever Fox last week. Well, yes, I'm going to be doing that, but I'm gonna do it at the end of the video because most of the people who are here might be here for the actual intentional content, not that. So we'll talk about that at the end of the video, okay? So stick around to then, and then I'll announce who the winner of the planner, okay? But other than that, let's just dive into the rest of the video. Hey guys, editing me here. Now before we hop into the content, I did want to give you a quick interruption. So while I was editing the video, I realized that what I was going to talk about would be so detailed that we actually need to turn this into a two-part video. So in this video, you're going to get the first 3 reasons why I no longer follow Ramsey Solutions. And next week, you're going to get the other 3 reasons. And trust me, you want to catch all of them because there are some practical financial reasons behind it. And there are also some reasons as a executive pastor and Christian that I can no longer follow Ramsey Solutions. And since I want you to really kind of get that understanding so that you can, keep the good and throw away the bad, then come and join us next week. But I wanted to give you that disclaimer before we hop into the thing. So yeah, okay, now there you go. Let's watch it. So there are some very practical reasons of why I no longer follow him. So this is not like I'm trying to hate or anything like that. I have legitimate reasons on why I do not follow anymore. But again, I'm not saying this to say that the baby steps in his system does not work. I'm just saying it to say that there are some things that you might want to throw out the window when you're listening to him, okay? Let me just, hopefully, saying that again will make it very clear. Okay, so now let's dive into the first reason. The first reason is that it actually prioritizes getting out of debt over having a really good emergency fund. Now, if you follow the 7 baby steps, you know that the first step is to have a $1,000 emergency fund. The second step is to get rid of all of your debt except for your mortgage. And the third baby step is to get a 6-month emergency fund. Now, mathematically, there is a logical reason for this order. Most of your emergencies are going to be less than $1,000, right? And since we know that most of your emergencies are going to be less than $1,000, then having a $1,000 emergency fund while you try to get out of debt is very helpful. And then when you get out of debt, your 3 to 6 month emergency fund that you need actually ends up being a lot lower because you don't have to set aside money for debt payments. Because let's say, for example, that your bare minimum needs are $1,500 a month, but then you're paying $1,000 a month when it comes to your debt. So that means that instead of being able to multiply $1,500 by 6, you have to actually multiply $2,500 by 6. And so that ends up being a $6,000 difference between you having a fully funded emergency fund. So there are some logical and mathematical reasons behind this. Also, when you consider the fact that your emergency fund is not going to make you enough money in, interest earned as your debt is costing you in interest paid. So there are some logical and mathematical reasons for why the baby steps does it this way. That's not my problem though. The problem that I end up having with the baby steps is when you're sitting down and reading the books, you typically don't see where it gives you scenarios or moments when there should be a caveat. It basically says it like those 3 steps must happen in those 3 orders no matter what. Now, if you listen to his show on a very regular basis, I actually used to listen to it every single day, then you would see instances where he would tell someone, hey, you should go ahead and stop your debt repayment and go ahead and stack cash for this circumstance. Well, I think that there's some people that the way that their life is set up, the way that maybe their geographical area is set up, it actually makes more sense for them to have a much larger emergency fund than $1,000 before they spend the next 3, 4, 5 years trying to get out of debt. Especially if they can get that big emergency fund set up within 6 months, 12 months, maybe 18 months, and they can have that sitting there as a safety net. Because for some people, depending on what could potentially happen in their life, if it's likely that you may temporarily have to relocate because you live in a high flood area, you live in an area that is prone to wildfires, you've had to be evacuated on more than one occasion in the last 3 to 5 years, it probably actually makes sense for you to have a larger emergency fund. Or maybe you find yourself in a situation where you work in a risky industry, like you work with contracts, or especially people who work in IT. People who work in IT, they can get hired and fired like that. And sometimes getting the next contract or getting the next gig can be more difficult than honestly I think it should be. But with that in mind, if you live in an industry where there's a good chance you might be furloughed, or there is a higher likelihood that, your contract could suddenly get shut down, or your employment, it's just really volatile. Well, in those scenarios, it makes more sense for you to have a 3 to 6 month fully funded emergency fund than it is for you to focus all of your time, energy, and efforts on your debt snowball. So really my issue ends up coming with the baby steps in that it doesn't understand, it doesn't clearly outline. Here are some clear cases when you might want to do something different. Here are some clear scenarios when you shouldn't follow this baby step to a T. And I guess ultimately that ends up becoming my problem with it, because you end up with people who are following the baby steps to a T who never call into the show for their own personal circumstance to understand maybe they're living in a caveat. And so because of those situations, I have some issues there, and I've seen some people end up in trouble because they didn't have an emergency fund that was big enough to handle the things that were happening in their life that had a high probability of happening. Because there's a difference between something that is definitely going to happen versus something that there's a decent chance it could happen. You live in a high flood area, decent chance it could happen. You work for the government, decent chance you get furloughed. You know, you work for contracts, decent chance you can get furloughed or your contract, canceled. So there are some very clear caveats and very clear circumstances. And in fact, I did an entire video talking about this. So I have an issue with the fact that it prioritizes getting out of debt over having a really good safety net, a really good emergency fund. And for that reason, then, I started having a little bit of problems with the baby steps. Now, the second reason why I no longer follow him is because of the 12% return assertion. And if you actually do some research on this assertion, you will see lots and lots and lots of people talking about this particular assertion. And the vast majority of people disagree with this assertion. So when you listen to Dave Ramsey, he basically has a particular mix of mutual funds that you should put together. And he tells you that if you invest your money the way that he's recommending, you are likely to see a 12% return annually on your investment. Of course, some years are going to be lower than others, some years are going to be higher than others, but you can expect to receive a 12% return on investments. And there's some very key information that's left out in that assertion. So when you read articles and blog posts where his team is defending that number, what they'll do is they will refer to the S&P 500. Now, if you follow the S&P 500, you'll see that they have had on average I think it was like 12.78 or 12.87, something like that when I was looking at it. I'll post it on the screen, but they were seeing a little over a 12%, almost 13% return annually across the entire index. And that's the part that is problematic. It's across the entire index. So if you invested in the actual S&P 500 across the entire index, you can expect to see a 12% return, because there are some companies that are going down, there are some companies that are going up, but in general, their performance is 12%. But his investment advice doesn't tell you to invest in the entire S&P 500 fund. It tells you to invest in like 4 different types of mutual funds. Well, if you're investing in 4 different types of mutual funds, you're not necessarily investing in the entire S&P 500 index. And so you can't necessarily expect a 12% return because you don't have the same mix in your mutual fund mix as the actual S&P 500 has. And that's where the problem lies. Now, you can look at YouTube videos, you can read blog posts. I've even personally interviewed investment advisors. And just so you know, I have an accounting degree, but I started my career, I started my education as a finance major. I originally was going to get a finance degree until I realized that even though I understand how to analyze basically all of this financial information to figure out what is a good stock, I don't enjoy it. I don't like doing it. And so even though I get the general concepts and I actually could give some decent advice if I cared enough to do the research. So I say that to say I get the concepts, I understand how this stuff works. And from my education, from all of the research that I've done, all the interviews I've done, everything that I've read and listened to, 12% is just not a reasonable number to expect from your investments unless you are specifically investing in the S&P 500 index, or you're specifically investing in a stock or a mutual fund or a index that has had an annual return of 12% or more over an extended period of time. So my problem isn't in the fact that he's saying that you can make 12%. Yes, you can. It's just that you cannot expect to make 12% based on how he's telling you to invest, because his evidence to support the 12% assertion does not match the mix in the way that he's telling you to diversify and to invest your portfolio. So that was a big issue that I ran into, and I actually know a lot of people who stopped listening to him just because of that one issue alone. The third issue that I ran into with his advice is that he tells you to stop investing in your 401k while you're paying off your debt, even if you have a company match. Now, there's mathematical reasons why I have a problem with this. I don't necessarily have a problem with this if it's just like, okay, stop your 401k, but you don't have a match, right? If you don't have a match, then stopping your 401k, not that big a deal. But it's when you have a match that it can really result in, honestly, a negative net impact, okay? So we're gonna have to do some actual math on this one. So you're gonna actually see me reading notes because we're gonna do some math here. Okay, so when a lot of people are thinking about stopping their investment in their 401k, they're sitting here thinking that automatically, unless they're like paying attention to doing the math, they're automatically thinking that whatever was going into my 401k is what I'm going to receive back. And depending on the type of investment that you have, that may or may not be true. So if you are investing in something that is after tax, then yes, that technically holds true. But if you're investing in something before tax, which a ton of people still do, then that does not hold true. Because if I'm making pre-tax contributions to my 401k of $300, and I am at the 22% tax bracket, well, I'm not going to get the full $300 back. It has to be taxed first. And so instead, I will maybe get around $234 back, maybe even less because of Social Security, Medicare, and other things. So I'm just going to say I'm going to get $234 back of the $300 once I stop the 401k, right? Now that is a loss of $66 per month in investing power. Now that's not the bad part. I'm not worried about that part. The bad part is the company match. It's losing the company match. The company match is literally free money. A company match means that the company is going to match up to a certain percentage every dollar that you invest in your 401k. Let's say that you make $45,000 a year and your company's match is 5% of your salary. So that means that when you do the math, your company will match up to $2,250 per year, which comes out to $187.50 per month that your company would have just put into your 401k. No questions asked. They would have put it in there as long as you were investing that much as well, okay? So remember, we had already lost $66, but now we've also lost $187.50. Together, that's $253.50 in investing power, in monthly investing power that we've lost in order to put $234 back into our pockets to use to pay off debt. So essentially, I have a negative return. Now that negative return of $19.50, which is the difference between the $253.50 and the $234, that negative loss of $19.50, okay, cool. So I'm losing, $20 a month, which is $240 a month in investing power. Okay, doesn't seem like a big deal. But do you remember how there's all these companies out here that are saying invest, 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 even if it's a little bit because compound interest is your friend? Well, the same thing applies here. Compound interest is your friend. And so when you're paying off a debt, the debt is eventually going to go away. It's eventually going to dwindle down, even if you never actually go beyond the minimum payment on most of those debts, except for credit cards, of course. But eventually that debt is going to dwindle down, right? But over the course of years and even decades, that loss of $200.40 can have a huge impact because compound interest is your friend. Now, I'm not going to go and just dive into what compound interest is and how it can have a positive impact, but I will link in the description a video that does a really good job of explaining compound interest and the positive impact that it has. In fact, I probably could just link to one of Dave Ramsey's videos about compound interest and the positive impact that it has, to be honest. But you're missing out on the compound interest. And so that little amount matters. And it especially matters if the debt that you're pulling it out for is like low interest debt. Let's say, for example, that your 401k is earning an average return of like 7% a year, but the debt that you're trying to pay off has an interest rate of 4%, 5%. That means the percentages don't even make sense. You're losing more money month after month, year after year, than you're saving yourself in interest when it comes to these debt payments. So it just doesn't add up. So for that reason, I have a problem with making the blanket statement of stop your 401k contributions, even if you have a company match. Just mathematically, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. And what he says is that it gives you motivation to hurry up and get out of debt so you can go back to investing. But remember, the 401k investment was an out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. Most people are not thinking about that money when it comes out of their paycheck. Most of them completely forget that they're even investing in the daggone thing until someone mentions it to them. And then they're like, oh yeah, I can take that money back and use it for blah, 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 blah. You know, it's an out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. And an out of sight, out of mind kind of thing is not a good motivator for hurrying up and getting out of debt. That's just not how that works psychologically. And so with that in mind, unless the math adds up, unless you do the math and it makes sense for you to stop your 401k match, it is going to have a positive impact over time. I just wouldn't do it. It's not worth it. Hey guys, editing me again, and there we have it. Those are 3 of the 6 reasons why I no longer follow Dave Ramsey and Ramsey Solutions. Now, I want to remind you guys, okay, I feel like I just need to keep saying this to make this clear. This is not about trying to cancel anybody. This is not about trying to make it sound like the baby steps and things don't work. Yes, they do work. There's just some bad things in there that you want to throw away as you're on your debt-free journey, because money is personal, money is emotional, and not one set of emotions is the same, not one person, one set of people is the same, and therefore not one set of strategies for reaching your definition of financial freedom, financial success is not going to be the same in spite of what they teach. So again, I'm not bashing, I'm not hating, I'm just helping you identify the bad so you can throw it away and keep the good, okay? But with that, we need to do something really important. We need to find out who is the winner of this Clever Fox budget planner that I was reviewing last week that honestly I fell in love with. I really love this thing. I almost was like, can I keep it for myself? Theoretically, I can just go buy another one, so it's not that big a deal. But I said that I would specifically send the one that I was reviewing, the one that I have in my hand, so that's what I'm going to do. So let's figure out who the winner is. There are my notes. Let me look at my notes. My notes say, ooh, child. Okay, just so you know, if I butcher your name, please do not get mad at me. I am not trying to butcher your name, especially your last name. So the winner is Vanessa Akeredolu. I think that's how you pronounce it. Either Akere or Akeredolu. I really hope that I said your last name right. But Vanessa, congratulations. I will be reaching out to you so that I can get your address so that we can get this budget planner to you and you can start using it as a tool to help you get back control of your finances, keep things organized, and really pursue the financial goals that you have for yourself in 2022. So congratulations, Vanessa. I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to send this out to you. All right, so now that we know that this is going to be a 2-part series, and now we know that Vanessa Akeredolu is the person who won the Clever Fox budget planner, it's time for us to head out. But before we do, I want to ask that, hey, if you like what you see here, do me a favor, like the video and follow my channel by clicking the big red button below. Don't forget to hit the bell so that you're notified every time I drop brand new money tips and biblical strategies designed to help you bust through the financial barriers that having you saying, hold up, wait a minute, to what it is God's calling you to do. Green cotton is not allowed to stop your destiny. So let's knock them things out the way, knock those issues out the way, and start pursuing God's purpose for ourselves on a full-time basis. So with that, you get to, you go watch some more videos. I've got some more work to do. So yeah, we're going to go do the things that I'm going to finish editing this video. All right. Bye-bye.